Guys, the trade deadline has come and gone officially, and the Seahawks have stood pat. More or less. No trades, no moves of big significance. They did make one move today, but nothing franchise changing, nothing earth moving, just kind of business as usual. I'm sure the Seahawks were involved in some potential trades, but nothing actually got done, which I got no problem with that. I got no problem with trading with excuse me, not trading for any players. We got a good thing going right now. I'm not against just letting it ride. This team is, it's not the best team in the league, but I also respect the need to not overextend yourself to try to force it to be one of the best teams in the league. It's fine. We have a good team. Things are going well right now. No need to mess it up. So I'm cool with that. There were some moves I would have been totally fine making, of course, but I completely understand the desire to hold on to your picks. I kind of feel like if you look at what a few of the trades that happened in the NFL over the last week, you look at the return that the teams got in exchange for their assets. I think that gave every team in the league kind of unrealistic expectations about what they could get. With, for instance, the Panthers trading McCaffrey and the Broncos trading Chubb, and what the Panthers supposedly turned down for Brian Burns. I think a lot of teams looked at that and went, hey, we should be getting something like that for asset X. So it was really hard to get in there and get somebody at a really low value. So you sat it out. Makes sense to me. I am a little disappointed we couldn't deal Sydney just because he's not playing. And I know he's a good player. I know he can do good things in this league. There were definitely teams out there that could have used somebody like a Sidney Jones, like the Bengals, maybe the Chargers, the 49ers. Somebody, I think, would have given up a sixth round pick for him. And we got no use for him here right now, unfortunately, because the cornerback depth is so thick. And he's a guy who's going to be a free agent next year. So he has no future here unless a lot of injuries happen in front of him. So that's the only thing that I kind of wish could have happened. I would have, like I said, taken a sixth round pick for him. But the headline here is that the Seahawks stood pat at the trade deadline. And I'm pretty good with it. I'm pretty comfortable with it. Makes sense to me. Um, the trades that I was hoping this team could make, like getting Shaq Thompson for cheap, Brandon Cooks for cheap, clearly those trades were just not going to be put on the table. So we have to settle for picking up a former first round bust from free agency. So that's the one thing that has happened today with the Seahawks. We have cut J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and signed Laquon Treadwell to the practice squad. Now, Laquon Treadwell, you might remember his name because he caught a 60-yard touchdown on us in a game in 2019. And that was probably the biggest play of his career, honestly, because after being drafted in the first round, he's been very, very little in this league. He actually had one catch as a rookie. As a Viking, those first 4 years, his best production came in 2018 when he had 35 catches for about 300 yards. He had 2 touchdowns in 4 years as a Viking. Just a very unproductive career. If you add up his numbers from his 4 years in Minnesota and put it all in 1 year, you would have a decent rookie year for a first round pick. So, yeah, he was a big disappointment in Minnesota, didn't catch on. Floated around the league these last couple years. Jacksonville actually had his best season ever in 2021. In Jacksonville, 33 catches for 434 yards. That's the best he's got, right? That's like a good month for Metcalf or Lockett. 33 catches for 434 yards. So I don't know if there's a whole lot here. Obviously, the guy is talented. You don't go in the first round without being talented, but it hasn't manifested itself. He's got good size, 6'2", 215 pounds. You look at his Ole Miss career. Now, this was an eternity ago, so who even cares? But it was a productive career. He became a real nice big play threat in his junior year. Over 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns. Just was never able to find his footing in the NFL. And at this point, you look at it and you go, if he hasn't found it by now, he's probably not going to find it. Now, we have a great case study for people finding it very late in their career on this team right now in Geno Smith, but that kind of stuff just doesn't happen very often at all. So to look at Laquon Treadwell and expect anything from him, probably not a good idea. But hey, JJ Arcega-Whiteside wasn't doing anything either, so it's not like you lose anything. So there's nothing wrong with it. Kick the tires on a guy with talent, but if that talent hasn't manifested into something productive by now, it's probably just not going to. So no real expectations there, but that's the one move we made today. We do need a little bit of depth at receiver when you think about it, just because we still have some guys who could go one way or the other with their health. And our depth is suspect. We have some guys that are interesting, but nobody who's actually proven much of anything. So, yeah, I'm not arguing with it, of course. It's nothing to be really upset about. It's just a move that you make when you're trying to keep your depth together. The main thing that happened today that was actually of relevance to the Seahawks would be what the Broncos did, because they went ahead and did it even though they won on Sunday. They traded Bradley Chubb to the Dolphins. They did reclaim some pretty significant draft capital. They got Miami's first round pick from San Fran. And look, San Fran, they're probably going to be a good team this year. They're probably going to make the playoffs. There's no guarantee that first round pick doesn't end up being pretty juicy. And the Broncos actually got a couple other picks out of it too. I think like a fourth rounder and a fifth rounder. So that's actually a big trade for them. They recouped significant draft capital for a guy who was only going to be there another half a season. I think 9 games. So that's actually a really good trade for Denver. But the only thing that really matters to us as Seahawks fans, it does make them worse for the rest of 2022. He was having a good season. He had 5.5 sacks. PFF thought he was a really good player. All the stats indicated he was a really valuable pass rusher for them. He was a leader. He was one of their best players on defense. And not having him is going to hurt the defense that has absolutely been carrying that team all year. Now, to the people out there who take this as a sign that Denver is just going to go into the tank and maybe win 3 or 4 games this year, I'm not completely convinced of that, admittedly. Yes, losing Chubb makes them worse, but don't forget they're getting Randy Gregory back soon. They still have Baron Browning. He's going to come back pretty soon, and he's been playing really well. And you still have Nick Bonito, one of their top rookies. And they traded for our old buddy, Jacob Martin, who, I don't want to go crazy with it, but he's pretty good. He's decent. So, Jacob Martin as your fourth rusher, as an edge player, that's good. That's pretty solid. So I don't think that edge rusher group has lost a ton. They've lost a little bit for sure. But I still think it's a credible group of pass rushers, and I think it's still going to be a great defense. Now, there's no fixing that offense. They decided to not exacerbate the problem. They kept Judy, they kept Hamler, they kept Risner. That's what you lose when you... Well, I mean, that's what you lose when you watch the Broncos win that Jacksonville game. I think some or all of those guys would have been gone if they lost to Jacksonville. But they did weaken themselves by trading one of their best players, so we'll take that. And hopefully it does result in like a 3 or 4 win season. Possible. Very possible still. Like I said, there's no saving that offense. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Quiet trade deadline, which, sure, no problem with it. Would have liked to have moved Sydney, but hey, at least the Broncos moved Chubb. Go Hawks.